Okay, update video on the Stumpjumper project bike. So here's where we're at. Yeah, I just did all this today. So this is off my old commuter bike. Great saddle. I don't think I'm gonna have any problems with that. This is from Recycled Cycles. This is a titanium seat post. It's also extended length. This frame size is a 21. My other is a 23. And I really wanted to make sure that I had enough stem, from the seat post inside the frame. Because if you get too little, man, you can damage your frame or kill yourself. So I should have, it should be going to about where my finger is. So you can see that's a lot, somewhere in this area. So that's a lot of seat post left in the frame. I am not scared of damaging this frame. Went with that. This is original here. Obviously I painted it. We'll go down from here. So here's the Rat Trap Pass Endurance cased. It's a great tire. Eventually it's going to have to get changed because this will be used on gravel roads, dirt roads, and like mountain biking in quotes, but it's not going to be doing hardcore downhill. This is the original front brake off of my other bike, and I repurposed it to be the rear brake on this bike. And that works just fine. So it's not hooked up yet, as you can tell, but I've adjusted the pads, kind of got everything set up. These are the original wheels that are on it. Came with this Stumpjumper. I believe this was a 1991 model. I'll flip this around, we get a better look at it, but here's the factory derailleur in the front. It's still there. That's the factory chain rings, all still there, 24, 36, 46, and factory crank arms. So all that's original. I even have the factory bottom bracket in it. The factory bottom bracket had nothing wrong with it. So I was like, well, why spend the money to get a new one if I don't need it? These are race face chesters. These are the, I believe the chesters are the composite. I don't know if they still call them chesters, but they have something that's exactly the same as this, and they make them out of aluminum. I kind of thought about getting the aluminum ones, but the composite's probably better because I kind of intend to thrash on this bike a little bit more than my other one. So, having a more wearable part there, that might be better. I don't know. Anyway, so triple chain ring front. This was originally the 7-speed narrow chain. When I flip it around, I'll talk more about the cassette. Factory front wheel, forged, Tangy, I believe, Tange, that's who makes them. And then I have a Shorty Ultimate in the front. And I'm using the black pads because the other set of orange pads are kind of worn out. And so I'm just going to go ahead and use these. And then when they wear out, I'll probably replace them with orange pads. But that works for now. So obviously still not hooked up here. Coming up, we're going to get into why that's not hooked up. So under this nut, I will have a collar that has a little attachment for the cable to the front brakes. That hasn't arrived yet, so I will have to disassemble all this to do that. And then I have this Origin 8 threaded stem, and this is going to come out. This is not going to stay in the bike. I ended up going with a Soma extended height threaded to threaded stem that has that's just blank right here, so you can use a threadless attachment. And then I got the Soma threadless attachment, and those are in black, which I think will match better. So this will come out, that'll all be black. These are the factory bars. I'm going to use the factory bars. I like the factory bars. Don't have a problem with that. So that's what I'm intending on using. But there will be more black up here, which I think will go better with the color scheme. The silver bars I don't think should detract much because there won't be a whole lot of bar showing anyway. There'll be a lot more stuff up here. And then right now I've got the Ergons, BioCork. I repurposed those from my other bike. I had originally bought these Paul aluminum purple brake levers for my other bike. And while the Pauls were coming in the mail, I bought this bike. And what I did is I repurposed the factory specialized all metal brake levers off this bike onto my other bike. And then I decided to use these purple pawls on this guy because I thought it might go better with the purple theme. So, you know, I mean, right or wrong, there it is. Maybe, you know, I would definitely consider swapping them out. They might look cooler on my other bike. I don't know, whatever. It's not, I'm not really a looks guy. I mean, sure, like to a point, you know, like, oh, that looks cool. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to ride a bike, you know what I mean? So I try not to get too into it. So from this side, that's pretty much everything. There are some, you know, the paint is not the best. Some of the decals started to lift under the lacquer, and I was able to sand some of that out, and I only had one can of each color, so I just kind of did the best with what I could. I'll probably put some decals, sorry for the camera work here. I'm juggling the bike while I'm juggling the camera, but I'll probably cover up some of that stuff with other decals that I'll get, but you know, again, not being super into looks, who knows if I'll ever actually get to that or not. Overall, though, I think for like a kind of a crappy garage paint job, I think it looks pretty sweet. Yeah, so the last thing you need to see is the cassette and the derailleur. So this cassette and this derailleur are 9 speeds. The derailleur obviously isn't denominational, but the cassette is a 9-speed. Now this is a 7-speed hub on this bike, so I could not put an 8-speed cassette or a 9-speed cassette or a 10 or 11. Pretty much everything is built to go onto a Shimano HG 8-speed hub. Well, this is a 7-speed hub, so what I was able to do was repurpose this 9-speed cassette that I had originally taken off my other bike and put it on this one, but I can't put all 9 speeds on it. So what did I do? Well, I put 8 speeds on it. So this is going to be an 8-speed bike, even though it's a 9-speed cassette. And the factory setup was 7-speed, but it was a narrow chain. And a 7-speed narrow chain isn't all that different than a 9-speed chain. So I'm just throwing a 9-speed chain on it, and that should not interfere with the factory front cogs. And it'll work just fine back here because this is a 9-speed cog. And then this is a Shimano Japanese-made XT rear derailleur, and this also came off my other bike, so I know for a fact that this works just fine with that. So I shouldn't have any problems with that, hopefully, right? So I cleaned everything up, and you know, it all looks pretty good, and it's kind of nice to have the ability to repurpose a bunch of parts, you know, throw them on this and see how it works. Like I said originally in my first videos of this was never intended to be a budget build, and it still really isn't a budget build per se, but I did get a lot of the parts secondhand, repurposed, so on and so forth. So I think that's kind of cool that I was able to do that. And you know, there's some new parts on there like those. There's nothing budget about these. I mean, these are like the least budget thing you could ever buy for a bicycle. So, you know, I mean, there's nothing budget about this either, other than I took it off my other bike. But, you know, there it is. So I think it's going to look pretty good. Some things coming in the mail still. So I decided to go with, and nothing budget about this either, I decided to go with Rivendell, what are they called? The Rivendell Silver Shifters. So it's a friction shifter, and it's based off the old Sun Tour friction shifters. I am a friction shifter diehard. I love them. You know, I'm not a racer. I don't need the index. I hate indexed cables. You know, if I was going to go for an indexed setup, I think I would want all electronic. I know it's like from one extreme to the other, but I just like the cables start to stretch and things don't index correctly, and I don't like it. I like friction shift. I like one extreme to the other, man. All friction or all electronic. And I've never messed with electronic stuff, but my good friend races and he messes with that stuff, and he said if you change your setups frequently, it's an absolute dream to work with. So me, I'm a cheapskate riding this old bike, so friction works just fine, you know. Talk to your wife about friction. Anyway, friction is for you. Yeah, so there you go. There's a look at it, and it's coming along, and hopefully I will be on this bike and riding it by August at the latest. And sorry that was a little bit long-winded, but that's what I do. I do long-winded, and you didn't pay for this. And if you don't like it, go watch something else. Awesome. Good night. Thank you very much.